This is News Bits on Fuxion TV. Here are the headlines. Muslim converts sentenced in murder of British soldier. 26 sentenced to death in Egypt over Suez terror. Students killed in fresh Boko Haram attack in Yobe State, Nigeria. Bahamas government to review medical marijuana issue. Veteran gospel minister Tosin Bangoshe has died. Deadly bomb blast in Mogadishu kills 12. These and more when we return. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute. Hello and thank you for joining me on this edition of News Bits on Fuxion TV. I'm Nike Roberts. Two Muslim converts who hacked a soldier to death on a London street have been sentenced. The pair was convicted on December 19th of murdering 25-year-old Fusilier Lee Rigby, who was struck by a car and then repeatedly stabbed with knives and a cleaver. In a brutal attack recorded on closed-circuit TV and by bystanders, Michael Adebolajo and Michael Adebowale hit soldier Lee Rigby with a car and then hacked him to death with a meat cleaver and knives in May 2013. Adebolajo, 29, will spend life in prison while Adebowale, 22, received a sentence of at least 45 years. Cell phone footage replayed at the trial showed Adebolajo still clutching a cleaver in his bloody hands, ranting that the killing was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, for British soldiers killing Muslims overseas. Lee Rigby, who was 25, had served in Afghanistan and was off duty when he was killed. At the trial, the prosecution said that the pair, both born and raised in Britain by families of Christian Nigerian origin, converted to Islam, Adebolajo in 2002 while at a university, and Adebowale more recently around 2009. The prosecution had asked for the maximum possible sentence, life imprisonment without parole. But defense lawyers argued Wednesday for leniency. Adebolajo gave an unemotional account of his actions. He declared himself a warrior for Allah and said he saw Al-Qaeda as his brothers in Islam. When asked at the trial what his defense to the charge of murder was, Adebolajo said, "I am a soldier. I am a soldier of Allah." An Egyptian court has sentenced 26 people to death for founding a terror group with the aim of attacking ships using the Suez Canal. The men were also reportedly accused of manufacturing missiles and explosives. All defendants were tried in absentia. In Wednesday's verdict, the court said the accused had harmed national unity and incited violence against the army, police, and Christians. A day before the sentencing, a new Prime Minister designate, Ibrahim Malab, was installed and put in charge of forming a new government following Monday's surprise resignation of interim Prime Minister Hazem Beblawi and his cabinet. Ibrahim Malab vowed he would crush terrorism in all corners of the country. Mr. Beblawi was appointed in July 2013 after the military overthrew President Mohamed Morsi in the wake of mass protests. Since then, more than 1,000 people have been killed and thousands of others detained in a crackdown by the security forces on the Muslim Brotherhood, which has been labeled as a terrorist organization. The case will now be referred to the Mufti, Egypt's top Islamic official, who has to validate the sentence. The final verdict is expected on March 19th. Following a recent anti-pornography bill that was signed by President Yoweri Museveni, police in Uganda have prevented women from marching through the streets of the capital, Kampala, in protest of the new law banning wearing of miniskirts. About 200 women, some dressed in short skirts, gathered outside the National Theatre to register their objection to the law, carrying placards with numerous messages. There have reportedly been several incidents over the past week of women in short skirts being publicly harassed and assaulted. Labeled the miniskirt law by Uganda's media, the Prime Minister and Attorney General reportedly told MPs that the cabinet would recall the law to review it. At least 29 students have been killed in an attack at a boarding school in northeastern Nigeria. Militants suspected to be Islamic extremists Boko Haram staged an attack on the school Monday night at the Federal Government College in Buniyadi, Yobe State. Witnesses report the militants either shot or slit the throats of boys who attempted to escape the burning buildings. Most of the victims were teenage boys. The authorities have confirmed 29 deaths, but news agencies have reported at least 42 dead, and other sources have claimed an even higher death toll. Ibrahim Gaidam, the governor of Yobe State, has criticized the security forces for their extremely slow response. He said in a statement, "It is unfortunate that up to 5 hours when this massacre took place, there were no security agents around to stop or contain the situation." President Goodluck Jonathan condemned the killings, calling them heinous, brutal, and mindless. Thousands of people have been killed since 2009 when Boko Haram launched its campaign to do away with Western education and install Islamic law in the country. Following Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama's State of the Nation address Tuesday in Parliament in the capital Accra, the opposition has charged that government policies have stalled economic growth and put the economy into crisis. Soli Garba, a senior policy advisor to President Mahama, has rejected the charges, saying that the administration has been implementing measures to help resolve the economic challenges Ghanaians face as the global economic crisis continues. In his address, President Mahama addressed the country's economic problems, but reassured the country that Ghanaians could be seeing improvement in the coming weeks. Addressing the sharp decline of the country's currency, the cedi, against the dollar as well as other major international currencies, Mahama said his administration is implementing long-term measures to resolve the problem. Critics say Mahama's feel-good State of the Nation address does not amount to a policy to address the country's economic woes. Garba disagrees, saying the administration has taken steps to stop the decline of the cedi and supports the Bank of Ghana's short-term measures to halt the decline. A suicide car bomb has exploded in the Somali capital Mogadishu, killing at least 12 people and wounding 8 others. The blast occurred close to a tea shop that is frequented by members of Somalia's intelligence unit. 3 members of the security forces were reportedly among the dead. The Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group said it carried out the attack. The group is waging an insurgency in Somalia against the UN-backed government. There has been an increase in violence in Mogadishu in recent weeks between the security forces and Al-Shabaab. Last week, the group carried out a car bomb attack outside the presidential palace in Mogadishu, killing officials and guards. Al-Shabaab was forced out of Mogadishu in 2011, but it still controls many smaller towns and rural areas of the country. Somali Prime Minister Abdiweli Sheikh Ahmed, responding to Thursday's attack in a written statement, said the government has set out steps aimed at eliminating the threat of terrorism in the country. He further said Al-Shabaab's agenda is a betrayal of Islam and of the peaceful Somali communities who want to see a new secure, stable, and united Somalia. As the legalization of marijuana continues to gain ground across the world, Bahamas Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell said on Tuesday the government will closely examine the issue following a Caribbean community meeting next month. Mitchell's statement came after Jamaica's leaders announced their intent to decriminalize marijuana use for medical purposes by the end of the year. Marijuana use in the Bahamas is illegal. Mitchell said the Bahamas is open to discussing the issue, stressing that we have heard the views on a market approach to anti-drug efforts advanced by many countries. We note the developments in the United States and have canvassed the potential policy changes with United States officials. We can say nothing more on the issue until such time as the CARICOM consensus has been reached and the studies returned, and the Bahamas Cabinet has had a chance to review the issue. And now to sports. Mario Coluna, Mozambique-born foreign Benfica and Portugal captain, has died. Coluna, a midfielder, helped Benfica win the European Cup in 1961 and 1962 before captaining Portugal to 3rd place in the 1966 World Cup in England. At the end of his career, Coluna returned to his native Mozambique, a former colony of Portugal, and went on to coach the national team. He then became head of Mozambique's Football Federation and also sports minister. It is a little over a month when Eusebio, Coluna's contemporary in Benfica, who had made the same journey from Mozambique to Portugal, passed away. Both players were part of the Portugal squad at the 1966 World Cup, where Coluna's creativity helped Eusebio finish as top scorer. Benfica president Luis Felipe Vieira said in a statement on the club's website, he was and will always be a football genius who magnified football and projected Sport Lisboa e Benfica to a global dimension. On yet another U.S. tour, multiple award-winning Afro-pop star Oliver Mtukudzi continues to delight his fans. He had a brief stop in Atlanta Wednesday where he thrilled fans for a couple of hours at the Variety Playhouse in Midtown Atlanta with favorites such as Hear Me Lord, Shonda, Rurimi, and Naria. Fuxion TV talked to some of the guests at the event. Take a listen.
I am so excited to be here to listen to his music. It is absolutely awesome. Seeing all the Zimbabweans, you know, seeing friends and family. It's a great evening. I just love it.
It's a little different from, you know, the West African stuff that we listen to, but there are a lot of similarities too. The same instruments, you know, that kind of thing. So it's kind of nice, a nice change, you know. I don't know what he's saying, but it doesn't matter. It's just good music.
I love Tuku's music. I've been listening to it since I was a child in Zimbabwe and fell deeper in love with it when I came to Austin, Texas, and now I'm in Atlanta and I follow his concerts. My favorite song is Perekedza Mwana.
How does that go?
Perekedza mwana uyo zuva ravira kunze kwadoka.
It's my first time listening live. I've listened to CDs, I've listened online, but it's such a wonderful show. It's an awesome show. I like that it has such a warm voice, like, and the guitars, the movement of the guitars, the polyrhythm of the music, it just hits you right here in a warm space.
I'm a great fan of Tuku. I've always been. I love his music. I mean, he sings lovely jazz, soulful music, so he's one of Africa's treasures, and I'm having such an awesome time.
We are really happy here today, supporting our local musician.
Oliver Mtukudzi is here. He's the bomb.com.
I'm from Italy. I'm here to enjoy this amazing concert about this amazing artist from Zimbabwe. This music is amazing, and everybody needs to know.
Veteran gospel minister Tosin Bangboshe has died. He was a worshipper and a gifted pianist, often lending his sonorous voice to his performances. He employed the art of traditional praise singing in his praise and worship sessions, which always conveyed the worshippers on a pure journey of adulation. Tosin had performed on many international platforms and worked with many gospel artists. At a memorial service held in his honor Thursday, he was described as a true Pan-African who never met a friend he couldn't help. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Tosin Bangboshe's family. Well, I do want to thank you for joining me on today's edition of News Bits on Fuxion TV. And I hope to see you again next time. Until then, stay safe.